Well, hi there. Welcome to Topsy's replica Mark IX Spitfire flying controls built for simulators using 3D printing. So the kit will comprise 4 elements. You can see here in the first picture the control column. I'll come back to how it works in a minute. The second item over here is the throttle quadrant, and that is fully operational. The third element is the trim control unit, which comprises both elevator and rudder trim. And last but not least is the remote control radio unit, which can be used, as you'll see in a minute, to be programmed for various other functions rather than the pure radio. So let's come back straight away to the control column. This is a fully functional control column. I'll give you the pilot's eye view and bring my seat forward a bit. Hang on a sec. Okay, so here we are in the pilot's seat. As in all Spitfires, the control column is tilted back at 11 degrees. So the neutral position, if you look down below here, you can see there's a black little line down here. The neutral position is there, and that is handed back 11 degrees. Now, when you pull it towards you to climb, it comes back 14.5 degrees. And when it's fully forward, near the control panel here, it's at vertical, basically. It's articulated at the top, as it should be, as in the real Spitfire. And the strap system replaces the chain. It's a lot less messy, and that drives a gear down below which actions a slider down below there, potentiometer. You can see just on the left there the elevator pitch slider or potentiometer. Now the top end of the stick here has a two-way firing button, so at the top here this is for machine guns, this is for cannon, and when you press in the middle you press both. There is a safety switch underneath. We'll see if we can see it under here, and when you activate that, it actually operates an electro-optical switch which sends a message to your computer to tell it that the safety is either on or off. The brake lever is also working. It's sprung loaded, and there's a potentiometer actually in here, and that will ensure that you get variable control on your brakes. So that's full and that's off. So fully forward, fully back and fully forward, and it's, if you can see my knees, I'll put my feet up where the pedals should be roughly. So here you can see it comes back into your stomach, which is as it should be on a real Spit, and forward is basically a full arms stretch out to the front. So that's enough for the control column. Let's move now to the throttle quadrant. Now the throttle quadrant is fully operational. The first item, as in the real Spitfire, is the friction wheel lever here, which if you pull this here, it tightens up the movement of all these levers in the actual throttle quadrant. So I'll set it as a bit looser here. The throttle quadrant has several features. It comprises of 3 operational levers. The first is the fuel cutoff here. In the Spitfire Mark IX, when we start, once the engine's rotating, we have to push that forward. And as you go past a point about here in the gate, it actually triggers another electro switch which tells it that that lever is either forward or aft, so either on or on in front and off at the back. The next lever is the throttle control, and the throttle control has got a gate. I don't know if you can see it here, but basically when you go fully forward to here, it stops, and to go beyond the gate you have to give it a push into the outside towards the exterior, and then it goes forward another foot. Now that is also connected to an electro-optical switch which tells the computer that you've selected war emergency power, and that will give you that extra 10%. So bring it back, it comes out of the gate, and here you're at max takeoff setting, and we bring it back down to 0 here. I'll push it forward to get it out of the way so you can see the next lever. Next lever is the air screw control, and this is also fully operational and works hidden within this throttle quadrant, a slider. So fully forward is here, and obviously you can set that to where you like. What's very handy, and I'll see if I can show it to you here, is that when you've got your hand on the throttle, you can actually manage the air screw control with your fingertips by keeping your hand on the throttle. Now you can see this red button here on the throttle. This is a working button and is used for TeamSpeak on the real Spitfire, but it can be programmed to release bombs or whatever else somebody might want. So that's all for the throttle quadrant for now. Now moving back to the trim wheels, these are very, very simple. They're directly linked to a slider or to a potentiometer. So forward is nose down, nose up to the rear, and this is the elevator trim, and the rudder trim is just down here. So swing it over to port, or bring it back to central here. Now these items, this metal bar you see here, is in fact the longeron of the aircraft datum, and this is the reference. This is the center point where everything is referenced from. So all these items are correctly positioned, including the control column, in relation to the fuselage datum, longeron, and you can see there's a line across the bottom of the mock-up dashboard here, so that I've used that to help position items as well. The little white spaces I've left are just to indicate where the switches are for starting the engines, and over in the left there, underneath, it's where the magneto buttons go, and a bit up here is where the flap lever goes here, and this is where normally the navigation lights are. Now I've got the complete mock-up of the board of the instrument panel here. Obviously I'll be cutting a lot of it away because I'll need to be able to look at the screen, and a lot of the instruments will be seen on the monitor, so I don't need to have them on the board. However, I would like to keep these items here, so that in a future version or an add-on we can add the flap lever here, and maybe the buttons at the bottom of the panel, because down here are dimmers here, and then there's normally it comes down here the compass, and in this sort of area, and then here is the throttle, the fuel on off lever, and over here would be the pump, the Kai gas pump. So those are little features that may come in on a second version. And then I've obviously also had requests to start building the right hand side of the cockpit, and here we would find typically the undercarriage control lever, which would be in a unit sitting about here. So coming back to the remote controller unit, this unit I've built a little bit of combing, cockpit combing, because this is actually as in real Spitfires, it was actually fixed and riveted to the combing. You can see the four bolts that I've put through there to hold it in, and obviously there's a little spacer behind. So this here will be operating. It has little lights that light up for the moment, so that you can see that when you press the buttons something happens. Down here is a lever which is non-functioning for the moment. In the real Spitfire, when this is onto the remote here, basically you could talk using pilot spoke by using the button on the throttle. When it was in the middle position, it was on receive, and it was sprung loaded over here to transmit, and it would flip back. So when you weren't on the remote, which is on this side, if you were in the middle on just receive and you wanted to transmit, you'd have to push that button over to the left and it would come back. So that was your microphone button. In the games, it would probably be useful for things like opening radiators and closing radiators or something like that. And some of these other buttons would be for gear, for flaps, and other things that you might want to do, like zooming or something, like zoom in and zoom out or something like that. This little lever here is in fact the dimmer for these things, so that at night these lights get dimmed. You can see that that's dimmer than this, so it's a working dimmer as in the real Spit. So that basically comprises the 4 elements of the kit. So you'll get the control column, which has got a sprung-loaded strut at the bottom. I've stuck a bit of railway sleeve iron down there to keep the thing stable. I guess in the kit it'll be supplied without that bit of iron. That costs a lot of money to ship, and basically a couple of water bottles down there filled, with water would be enough to stop this thing flying around. One can control the stiffness of the roll by playing with this nut here. So I'll put a wing nut on there on the final version. So that means that you can have this as you like. And what is rather nice is that when you don't need to have elevator trim, because basically this is not sprung loaded. It'll stay in the position that you leave it on left and right on roll. So if you're flying, if your aircraft is a little bit one wing down, then you can just pull it over until you find the balance. And fore and aft, well, it's sprung loaded so that it'll always return to the middle. It'll always return to its center position, and then obviously people will play a lot with the elevator trim wheel here to have a stable flight. So nose up and nose down will be on this rotating here. So that's about all for now. I'll keep you updated. Next step is to stick our little you can see all these cables hanging around here, down here. These all come out from the various electronic components and will be fed up into the back of this box here, which will conveniently house the Arduino chipset, which will be used to program all the functions. So that's Topsy. That's the update on Topsy's latest invention on his project to have a proper real Spitfire experience when flying flight simulators. So bye for now and see you soon. Thanks for watching. Ciao.